For Pacifica Radio, I'm Christina Onnested. Opening arguments begin in the historic first criminal prosecution of a U.S. president today in Manhattan. Donald Trump faces 34 counts of business fraud for allegedly falsifying business records and failing to report money sent to silence an adult film star who alleged an affair during his 2016 presidential campaign. The trial could last more than a month. In a separate civil fraud case today, New York State Attorney General Letitia James is asking a court to nullify a bond Trump posted as he appeals a $454 million judgment to prevent asset seizure for fines he faces for falsifying business records and misleading statements about his company's worth. In Gaza, the death toll has surpassed 34,000 after rescue workers recovered at least 283 bodies from a mass grave near Al Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis, including children, according to Palestine's Wafa news agency. Also among the dead are medical workers in handcuffs and bullet wounds in their heads in what appears to be summary executions, according to Quds News Network, in what could be a war crime. Wafa reports some 2,000 people are still missing after Israeli forces left the area 2 weeks ago. Gaza's health ministry is reporting Israeli forces killed 54 Palestinians in the last 24 hours. In Rafah, Israel launched a large-scale attack over the weekend, killing 22 Palestinians, including 14 children. Among the dead, a pregnant mother. Medics were able to deliver the child and save its life via cesarean, the baby born an orphan. The strikes occurred the same day Secretary of State Antony Blinken spoke with Israel's defense minister and urged de-escalation, according to media reports. In the West Bank, a general strike took place Sunday, and Defense of Children says at least 4 youth were among the 14 dead Palestinians after Israeli forces raided a village that killed what it calls 10 terrorists. The Biden administration is sanctioning more West Bank settlers and Saturday announced sanctions against an Israeli military battalion, accusing it of mistreating Palestinians, including a dual U.S. American citizen elder who died in the battalion's custody. The head of Israel's military intelligence has resigned over failing to prevent Hamas's October 7th attack. It marks the first senior Israeli figure to step down over the failures surrounding the attack. The House passed a package of funding bills late Saturday, early Sunday, some $60 billion for Ukraine, $24 billion for Israel, $8 billion for Taiwan. The support for Israeli aid was overwhelming, though a growing number of Democrats and Republicans voted no for different reasons. Democrats cited the high civilian death toll in Gaza for their opposition. Republicans were largely opposed to raising the debt. It now goes to the Senate, where independent Bernie Sanders of Vermont says he will introduce amendments to restore funding for UNRWA in the bill and limit military aid to Israel. Meanwhile, a new United Nations report released today says it's still not been provided with proof from Israel. 12 of its staff members with UNRWA were involved in the October 7th attacks. That claim led the U.S. to pull funding from the agency. The U.S. was its largest backer. The Supreme Court will consider whether banning homeless people from sleeping outside when resources like shelter and housing are lacking violates their constitutional rights under the Eighth Amendment against cruel and unusual punishment. It's considered the most significant case on homelessness to go before the High Court in decades, as more than 650,000 people sleep on U.S. streets each night, reaching record levels. Dozens of homeless and advocates staged a die-in out front the Supreme Court this morning, holding signs that said "Housing, not handcuffs," and "Housing solves homelessness." Megan Hustings is executive director for the National Coalition for the Homeless.
We just had our die-in this morning, and we're here because housing ends homelessness, not criminalization. What the Supreme Court is looking at today is it's just about whether someone can have a blanket, just something to keep them warm. They're forced to live outdoors. They have nowhere else to go. It's criminal that we're even considering this as an option, that our cities are criminalizing close.
According to the ACLU, more than 1,000 organizations and public leaders have filed more than 40 amicus briefs urging the court to uphold the rights of unhoused people. Democrats and Republican lawmakers, though, are joining efforts to overturn a lower court's ruling that said criminalizing the homeless when there's no shelter shelter violates their constitutional rights. The case comes from Grants Pass, Oregon, which started fining people for sleeping outside. President Biden signed legislation reauthorizing a key U.S. surveillance law after divisions over whether the FBI should be restricted from using the program to search for Americans' data nearly forced the statute to lapse. But it passed the Senate 60-34, reauthorizing Section 702 of FISA, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. The bill also includes reforms that could lead to a ban. Today is Earth Day. President Joe Biden is announcing $7 billion in federal grants to provide residential solar projects, serving 900,000 plus households in low and income middle communities. He also plans to expand his New Deal-style American Climate Corps Green Jobs Training Program. Comes as he's working to energize young voters for his re-election campaign. More than a dozen rallies were held Friday demanding he declare a climate emergency. I'm Christina Onestad reporting for Pacifica Radio.